Never felt so relaxed after prelude music. We bid you welcome. We do not ask what you believe or expect you to think a certain way, but only that you try to live a kindly, helpful life with the dignity proper to a human being. Welcome all who believe that religion is wider than any sect and deeper than any set of opinions. Welcome all who might find in our friendship strength and encouragement for daily living. Good morning and welcome to the Universalist Unitarian Church of Farmington. I am the Reverend Glenn Farley. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors today. After the service, you are welcome to socialize in our coffee hour outside. While indoors, we are observing COVID precautions and wearing masks, regardless of vaccination status. If you have a joy or sorrow you'd like to share, please fill out a blue card and give it to an usher, and it will be read later in the service. You can also text the number in the order of service and include your name in the text. We remember our UU principles begin with our pledge to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of all people. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome into our community people of all races, sexual orientations, and gender identities. Okay. Printed in the order of service is our shared affirmation of mission, and I invite you to recite it with me aloud now. We seek answers everywhere, include everyone, live with compassion. Our opening hymn is number 118, This Little Light of Mine, in the gray hymnal. And please rise in body or in spirit and sing it together. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. With the kindling of this flame, we reaffirm our commitment to accept life's gifts with grace and gratitude and to use them to bless the world in the spirit of love. I'd like to invite up Bev Church now for some Unsung Heroes Awards. Bev?
Hi, I'm Bev Church, and I am Secretary of the Executive Board. And we have so many great volunteers here who give their time and talent to benefit our community. And today we'd like to recognize two of them. As you may recall, last summer, our religious education coordinator left on maternity leave with a plan to return in the fall. After her leave, she chose not to return, and the position remains open. This presented a challenging situation, but the two individuals we're recognizing today stepped up in a big way to fill the void. They quickly developed plans, recruited volunteers. Many of you may be familiar with the clipboards that have been passed around throughout the year to recruit volunteers. And they turned what could have been a difficult year into one that included fun and meaningful lessons for our youth, intergenerational events such as Treats on the Trail, and a year-long coming-of-age program for our teens that culminated in a special service last month. So on behalf of Reverend Glenn and the UUCF Executive Board, I'd like to recognize these two unsung heroes, Katie Coker, Kelly Petrie, with our Unsung Hero Award.
It was such a joy for me working with Kelly and Katie this year. Thank you all so much. Let's give them another round of applause. There's a reading I want to share before we start the rest of the service, just in response to the news from the Supreme Court that happened on Friday after the service was planned. And this is a talk that was given by Ursula Le Guin in 2004, and it's entitled, "What It Was Like." My friends asked me to tell you what it was like before Roe v. Wade. They asked me to tell you what it was like to be 20 and pregnant in 1950. When you tell your boyfriend you're pregnant, he tells you about a friend of his in the Army whose girl told him she was pregnant. So he got all his buddies to come and say, "We all bonked her, so who knows who the father is?" And he laughs at the good joke. They asked me to tell you what it was like to be a pregnant girl. We weren't women then. A pregnant college girl who, if her college found out she was pregnant, would expel her, there and then, without plea or recourse. What it was like if you were planning to go to graduate school and get a degree and earn a living so you could support yourself and do the work you loved. What it was like to be a senior at Radcliffe and pregnant, and if you bore this child which the law demanded you bear and would then call unlawful or illegitimate. This child whose father denied it, this child which would take from you your capacity to support yourself and do the work you knew it was your gift and your responsibility to do. What was it like? I can hardly remember now, 50 plus years later, what it was like to live under fundamentalist Christian law. Thanks to Roe v. Wade, none of us in America have lived in that place for half a lifetime. But I can tell you what it was like for me right now. It's like this. If I had dropped out of college, thrown away my education, depended on my parents through the pregnancy, birth, and infancy, till I could get some kind of work and gain some kind of independence for myself and the child. If I had done all that, which is what the anti-abortion people want me to have done, I would have borne a child for them, for the anti-abortion people, the authorities, the theorists, the fundamentalists. I would have borne a child for them, their child. But I would not have borne my own first child, or second child, or third child, my children. The life of that fetus would have aborted 3 other fetuses, or children, or lives, whatever you choose to call them. My children, the 3 I bore, the 3 wanted children, the 3 I had with my husband, whom, if I had not aborted the unwanted one, I would never have met and married, because he would have been a Fulbright student going to France on the Queen Mary in 1953, but I would have not been a Fulbright student going to France on the Queen Mary in 1953. I would have been an unwed mother of a 3-year-old in California, without work, with half an education, living off her parents, not marriageable, contributing nothing to her community but another mouth to feed, another useless woman. But it is the children I have come back to, my children, Elizabeth, Carolyn, Theodore, my joy, my pride, my loves. If I had not broken the law and aborted that life nobody wanted, they would have been aborted by a cruel, bigoted, and senseless law. They would not have been born. This thought I cannot bear. I beg you to see what it is that we must save, and not to let the bigots and misogynists take it away from us again. Save what we won, our children. You who are young, before it's too late, save your children. It is clear that these assaults against human dignity will be coming fast and furious from this Supreme Court. It is thus more important than ever to support institutions such as this congregation. With that, we'll hear a musical interlude, Peaceful Life. I want to begin with a reading by Raven Harris. Raven was a member of my congregation in Sedona, Arizona, and she was and is a baby boomer. She grew up in California, and she grew up in a time when a lot of the boys and men she grew up with went and served in Vietnam, and so she shares some reflections on that, and I want to share them. She writes, "The most important lesson I've learned is to question my mind. When good friends returned from the war in Vietnam in the early 1970s, he and I had many spirited discussions. He said he didn't believe how anyone could have the experiences he did and still believe in God. I responded that what fascinated me was how so many people went to war, experienced similar situations, and came away with such different interpretations. In my friend's case, it was denying the existence of God. Others came away even more convinced of God's presence. Still others came away with a determination to work for peace. Others to engage in violence at home, or any number of responses. What made the difference? The other night," Raven writes, "I had an intense dream and was aware how my mind organized the events of the dream to develop a theme. While interesting, I started to question the validity of this theme and wondered what other themes I could use to organize events of my dream. I could see the way I organized and thought about events provided different interpretations, each logically consistent within itself, yet very different from each other. I find that this awareness of multiple interpretations makes me more open to listen to opinions of others, even when they are very opinionated that their view is the only right one. In doing some research, I saw the process of creating meaning as one that only humans possess, as it requires parts of the brain not present in other mammals. It also requires various degrees of cognitive development, at least according to some theories. Then there's also the theory of social constructionism, which states that meaning comes from coordination among humans, not separately within each individual. I find that I return to the message on the bumper sticker: don't believe everything you think. So I'd like to explore the spiritual journey with some textual analysis of popular music from the 1960s and 70s by women songwriters. Joni Mitchell released the song Both Sides Now in 1966. And some lyrics from it, she writes, "Rows and flows of angel hair, ice cream castles in the air, feather canyons everywhere, looked at clouds that way. But now they only block the sun. They rain, they snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow, it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life at all." And then in 1975, Stevie Nicks released her song Landslide. And some lyrics from that, she said, "The landslide brought me down. What is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? I've been afraid of changing because I built my life around you. And I'm getting older too. Oh, I'm getting older too." These are popular songs that are asking the big questions. What is life? What is death? What is love? What is truth? What is the meaning of it all? And what does it mean to me? Often these questions are asked in a context of a life transition or change, heartache or heartbreak, a brush with mortality, or some other loss or grief. I used to have a secure foundation, but now I'm caught in a landslide. I used to see clouds as something for angels and ice cream, but now I see clouds as blocking out the sun, raining and snowing on everyone. What was once secure is now insecure. What was once whimsical and happy is now blocking out the sunlight. It's times such as these that are ripe for the beginning of what I will refer to as a spiritual journey, perhaps the spiritual journey. A time when whatever life strategies were working for us in the past are not working now. So what are you going to do about it? Many people ignore it and go back to the way they were living before. They forget it or bury the questions or the heartache in the recesses of their psyche. For the spiritual journey to begin, I think what is required is humility. It's only with humility can you say, I don't know. The Catholic monk Thomas Merton wrote, "Those who think they know from the beginning will never, in fact, come to know anything." It's only with humility can you say, I need a little help here. This is not easy. It's not easy, especially when the role you most frequently engage in life is as the knower or the helper. So, a signpost on the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the first required characteristic is humility. So you are humble. So then what? Then the journey begins. You're looking for meaning, someone or something or some group who you think can take the pain or dis-ease or confusion or heartache away. Today you might go to a doctor, a therapist, a friend you greatly respect, or you might check out a new religious community. There is something that is deep in the cultural conscience. Luke Skywalker went and sought out Yoda. The ancient Greeks might go to the oracle at Delphi and tell me what their fate is. In times past, you would go see the old wise woman who lives outside the village, the medicine man, the shaman, the druid. Later, you could go see the priest, the pastor, or the rabbi. This is a time of great vulnerability. Why is that? Well, one is everyone is happy to give you advice. And secondly is you could choose poorly. You could join a cult or a gang. You could join some fundamentalist uprising at home or abroad. You could go under the influence of a snake oil salesman or prosperity gospel preachers who promise you material riches if you only give them big donations. Fundamentalisms of all stripes have all the answers mapped out in black and white with either or thinking and us-them thinking. This is why it's so important that the people walking through these doors at this congregation, the visitors each Sunday, are welcomed warmly. They may be in a vulnerable place, and the answers are not all mapped out here. We say, welcome. We're here to support you in figuring it all out. So next, what's required on the search for truth and meaning is courage. When you don't know, you may know something's not working, but you don't yet have a solution. You must have the courage to make a change in your life. A new teacher or a new community that might support you a new spiritual practice, perhaps a sober lifestyle, or anger management classes, or regular therapy sessions, or a pilgrimage to a sacred place. So you're there, you're on the path, on your spiritual journey. You might fall off the path. You might get bored. You might take a nap on the side of the path for days or months or years. You might forget you're on a path. You might come across other paths which seem more enticing. You might not want to give up your luxuries, your identities, your materialities. Back to Raven's reflection, this could all be the importance of not believing your own mind. These little voices that tell you you're bored or that you're missing out on other paths which are more enticing. So here it's important to forgive yourself for failure, for falling off, for not knowing, for starting again. There's a UU hymn that says, "We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love." We can't see this spiritual journey as a 40-yard dash. In fact, it's not even a marathon, but it's more like a hike of a lifetime, one foot in front of the other. So the next signpost of continuation is you might get confused or fall off the path, and this requires gentleness or laughing at oneself. So far, I've been speaking from my own personal lived experience, so I felt pretty comfortable. The touchy thing could be around language, since different words have different meanings to different people. But in speaking of arrival or completion of the spiritual journey, I'll have to speak from the lived experience to information I've read or heard about, because I'm still on that journey myself. So what is required for the good life or self-actualization? The poet T.S. Eliot speaks of the aspects of paradox. In one of his more famous poems, he writes, "The end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Quick now, here, now, always, a condition of complete simplicity, costing not less than everything, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well." There's a sense in which the fully awakened life is the same as everyday life, but perhaps your lens is subtly different. There's well-known Buddhist sayings, before enlightenment, you run water and wash dishes. After enlightenment, you run water and wash dishes. It's also written as, before enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water. In the Zen tradition, there's really, my understanding of it, there's no levels to the spiritual journey or enlightenment. They tell you you're already enlightenment just as you are, and so your journey is to figure out why you don't feel that way. This might be what Jesus is getting at when he says the kingdom of God is within you. In Theravada Buddhism, there's more levels of understanding called jhanas, which you go in like climbing up a mountain. The point is the framework can be a journey up a mountain or the removal of all externalities, going deeper and deeper into one's true nature in the cave of the heart, deep, deep underground. What we're seeking can't be found in the material sense. No holy grail, no fountain of youth, no magic pill, though that doesn't stop us from looking for those things. And yet somehow one must work to find what cannot be found. An ancient Persian Sufi master said, "This thing we tell of can never be found by seeking, yet only seekers find it." So we might not know what's required, I can't give you the keys to that kingdom, but paradox is an aspect of self-actualization. So it probably would behoove us to get comfortable with it. So this framework of the spiritual journey, humility, courage, and gentleness, it could be spoken about in various ways in various traditions. In Sufism, they talk about union with the divine. In Buddhism, with the enlightenment or awakening, there's suffering. You take on the precepts and you enter the path. In traditional Christianity, they talk about salvation, which is sin, repentance, baptism, and being reborn. Stoics talk about the good life. And in psychotherapy, they talk about self-actualization in the work of Carl Rogers and Maslow, or a life of wisdom and compassion. And in 12-step, they talk about being clean and sober. So you can view it as many paths up one mountain, or many paths up many mountains in one mountain range, or perhaps of going 10,000 feet under the mountain. I think progress can be made through many of these paths, but each path emphasizes different characteristics. So that begs the question, since we are at a Unitarian Universalist service, what wisdom does UU teach us about the spiritual journey? Well, the third and fourth principles of the UUA, the third principle is acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. The fourth principle is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. As a covenantal faith, not a creedal faith, we don't have too many instructions. We have general guidelines. Be responsible, be supportive. Figure it out yourself, like a choose-your-own-adventure book. It's not a narrative that is already written into which you find your place. This reminds me of the values I like to convey to children when playing a game. Safety first, and be positive and supportive. But it's not for everybody. In a sense, when you come here, that's when the work begins. Historically, the wisdom of the Unitarian and Universalist paths, Unitarianism was very empowering. Talked about the positive view of human nature, the importance of choice and autonomy and agency and free will. And what you do matters. You were born to be courageous. Universalist tradition would talk about not somewhere else, but here, right now, this life. You are saved. You are motivated to do good out of gratitude, out of joy, rather than out of fear and trembling. We all came from the same place. We're here together, and we're all going to the same place. So we might as well get along while we're here. Both Unitarianism and Universalism focused on a benevolent God, where the universe is a friendly place. And in our religious humanist tradition, it helped us keep it real. Don't waste time on make-believe. Skepticism is a virtue, and doubt is a virtue. Cherish your doubts, for doubt is the servant of truth. This keeps one safe during a vulnerable time. Talks about the importance of beloved community, not beloved one. Communal salvation, communal self-actualization. Horace Mann, the great 19th century educator, said in an address at Antioch College in 1859, "Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity." And Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the great Latin American Nobel Prize-winning author, who passed away in 2015, wrote, "What matters in life is not what happens to you, but what you remember and how you remember it." E. Cummings, the Unitarian poet, wrote, "We do not believe in ourselves until someone reveals that something deep inside us is valuable, worth listening to, worthy of our trust, sacred to our touch. Once we believe in ourselves, we can risk curiosity, wonder, spontaneous delight, or any experience that reveals the human spirit." This is the importance of a supportive community. When we pass the plate during our worship service to make a community expression of thanks for the blessing of abundance, to visibly bring into our harvest at this most cherished hour of our week, our offering, this congregation says that the act of giving is as essential to our spiritual well-being as anything else we do here on Sunday mornings. Let us share a moment of stillness and silence together and remember the words of Forest Church, UU minister, who said, "Religion is our human response to the dual reality of being alive and knowing we're going to die." May it ever be so. Amen. Our words for our offering this morning. This congregation is a refuge where we can keep the ember of hope alive when all the world seems intent on dousing it. Then we can use our little ember to light a beacon for the rest of the world. Our offerings each week sustain this community so we can share our small embers to light a dark world. Please give generously so that we can all together help spread this light. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received. Now is our time for our new member welcome ceremony, and I'd like to invite up Executive Board Member Linda Brown to come help me as we welcome some new members. I know of 3 new members who are going to join today, but we're very welcome to have an altar call if there's other visitors or guests who've been coming for a while and they're interested in come, and the Spirit moves you, you can come on up. I'm going to read some words, and I'll ask Linda to read some words, and then I'll invite up our new members who want to join. We are pleased to welcome those who have chosen to become members of our congregation. The decision to become a member is an expression of spiritual commitment. Through your individual spiritual journeys and questioning continue, you have nevertheless come to a time in your journey where you are willing to say, yes, this is my spiritual home. Today we celebrate that homecoming. Okay, Linda, please.
As a member of the Executive Board, it is my pleasure to welcome you into our congregation. Our individual journeys have brought us together in this moment and in this place to share a common purpose and a vision for our collective future. We celebrate your decision to become members of this congregation and to link your future with ours. Through your choice to join this congregation, you have expressed your intention to commit to our vision, to promote our principles, and to be part of our community. Through you, our new members, the congregation is renewed. We welcome and honor the diversity you bring, which increases the vitality and creativity of our community. We embrace you this day, honoring the talents and energy you add to our congregation. We encourage you to savor the journey you have begun today to find a place in our congregation that is distinctly yours. May your spirit be nurtured here, as together we do our part to create a loving, just, and sustainable world. Welcome.
Okay. And, will those new members please rise and come forward and join Linda behind the chalice? So you will now sign the membership book formalizing your commitment. You will also receive some papers that my administrator made me give to you so you can fill out, so you can get into the registry, and as well as a UU bag you can use when you go to the grocery store. So I'm going to say a few words to the congregation and then to the new members, and then I'll share a prayer. So, congregation, with joy we affirm and recognize the decision to become members of this beloved community. We pledge to support you in your search for truth, to celebrate with you in times of joy, to help you in times of trouble, and to join with you in rightful action. Congregation, if you affirm these sentiments, please say, "We do." We do. Okay, new members. By joining the UU Church of Farmington, we commit to supporting one another in our efforts to speak honestly, to act with compassion, to love without prejudice, to live with integrity, and to respond with courage to the demands of justice. We pledge to support our congregation and the association of which it is a part, as we are able, with our hearts and hands, our talents and resources. New members, if you affirm these sentiments, please say, "We do." We do. In our work together across the generations, may we become a more effective instrument of service, a voice for liberation, reason, and respect, and a community in which we can honor all that life brings to us. Recognizing that we all have ministries to fulfill, we celebrate together in the unity and spirit and universality of love. May it ever be so. Will you join me in a round of applause welcoming our new members? So that's Karen and Daryl and Helen, so be sure to introduce yourself to them if you have not yet met them. Okay. A whole heart is one that has known love and loss, joy and sorrow. The perfect heart is one that has been shared. As joys and sorrows of our community are shared, please direct your energy, prayers, and meditations as a gift of compassion and strength. I got it's going to be completely new for me. Never been in the military or done anything like this, but I'm excited for new things. I'll be going to officer training school at Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama, all of August and September. They make you carry around a camelback so you don't pass out from that southern heat. And I think they make you run, but I believe it's early in the morning, like before the sun comes up, so you don't die. Hopefully that's the case. And I just found out where they're going to send me afterwards, and I haven't shared this with anybody, but I wanted to share it today. So I'll be doing that in August and September in Alabama, and then they're going to send me to Misawa, Japan after that. So I'm very pleasantly excited for that. The recruiter told me that when you're a rookie, they always send you somewhere in the lower 48 states, and then they called me and told me they're sending me to Japan. So, which yeah, right. I went to Japan in 2010 at the end of seminary as part of an exchange program that my seminary, Stark King, had with this Shinto shrine over there, and I was there 3 weeks, and it was a real wonderful experience. I really fell in love with Japan and the culture, so I'm pretty excited for this opportunity. So I just wanted to share that. Let's sing our closing hymn together. It's number 123, Spirit of Life in the Gray Hymnal, and I invite you to rise in body or in spirit to sing it. I'd like to thank Xiao Dangwei for coming and sharing your gorgeous music with us this morning. Thank you so much. I have some closing words by Ursula Le Guin. It is good to have an end to journey towards, but it is the journey that matters in the end. May you go in peace.